It's my name, damn it.
All right. We won't have anything on the screen, so don't worry about looking at it, but we've got our public meeting for that. So I've told some of y'all before that this is a little bit of a different meeting for today because we've got some visitors. We've got Amanda, Denny, and Pamela who are doing focus groups on business incubators, which is partially what we've been trying to figure out what to do with this space. And I had met Amanda from our Appalachian Leadership Institute class that we did a couple of years ago with the Appalachian Regional Commission. And this group was the perfect one to be one of our focus groups. And so we've met with a couple other groups already today. And I'll just turn it over to you guys. We don't have any minutes or anything for today.
Approve.
My name is Amanda, as you mentioned. I am from Central Pennsylvania. I'm with the Harrisburg about an hour. I work for an organization called DRIVE, which is a terrible acronym. I think it stands for something like driving real innovation for vibrant economies. They made it like 10 years ago, and frankly, it's the worst acronym ever. Like, we never use it, we just go by DRIVE. But we are an economic development organization, and my role there is to meet with small businesses and large scale manufacturers and basically connect them to resources. Whether that be grant funding, whether that be they need a site, they need whatever resources they need, someone for payroll or whatever is really just keeping them up at night. I get to be the therapist that helps relieve those pain points. As much as it sometimes pains me to hear all of their pain points, but I try to help as much as possible. And this grant came about, as Jamie mentioned, from our time in ALI together. And so we are examining small community-based incubators in multiple communities throughout Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Tennessee, Ohio, West Virginia, and New York. So there's 6 states total. It's a lot of travel, I can tell you. We're about halfway through and we've got the other half, so we'll be traveling between now and July, which is really exciting. But we're also looking at youth entrepreneurship along with small business incubators, how these going through CTE or different education in the local schools, how are they learning any business acumen at all, if they are at all. Sometimes they are, sometimes they aren't. But we're looking at if the network that we would like to build of support between all of the incubators and communities that we're visiting, if that could also include a youth component, would that network be successful? Is it needed? Is it necessary? And if a community like yours has a space that they're looking to really build an incubator in, what would that look like? What would be helpful? What wouldn't be helpful? So at the end of all of our travels and all of our visits, Jamie will get a copy of this, but it will not only be a comprehensive miniature feasibility study on your community and your incubator, but then also you'll be able to see yours versus everyone else's with the full copy as well. So you'll be able to use that for your own grant writing or knowledge or whatever you'd like. The idea in the long run is to hopefully apply for, we're in a planning grant right now. There is a much larger implementation grant that if the federal government does not screw with my emotions, I would like to apply for in the future. That would hopefully lend for funding for Jamie's organization to then get funding to help prop up this incubator in some capacity. I don't know what that is yet. I have no idea amounts of money. I don't even know what the incubator network is going to look like yet, but that's hopefully what all of you will happily help us figure out with your input. Really thank you for your feedback, but I'll turn it over to my colleagues Denny and Pamela to introduce themselves and talk a little bit more and give your spiel.
Yeah, so I'm Denny Hummer and I'm Assistant Director of the Small Business Development Center at Bucknell University. We're right in the middle of the state of Pennsylvania. One of our 3 incubators is located in Amanda's building that they have in Danville. And before I go any deeper, I just want to ask the group if it's okay if I use artificial intelligence to capture and summarize our meeting today. Is there any objections to me using an AI tool? I just like to ask. I don't want to be offensive to just assume. Awesome. Thank you. What's that?
It doesn't take over the world.
Sure, I promise you. Answer that question. But no, it's good to be here. And like Amanda said, we're looking at communities across 6 states to look at commonalities. How do we, what are the things that we share and part of being in the Appalachian region and focusing on, what are key takeaways? What are things that we can learn from each other? And is there something bigger here? There's so many tools out there that I always use the expression, one size doesn't always fit all. And we're looking at, our regions, our communities, what our shared resources are, and trying to put this whole thing together and understand it better. So your willingness to show up and be a part of this conversation today is really going to be instrumental in us understanding Hendersonville, the community, the county, and the resources that are here. So thank you.
My name is Pamela Langford and I am from Southeast Ohio, a little town called Marietta, right on the river and on the border of West Virginia. And my organization is Building Bridges to Careers. So we work to bridge the gap between education and employment, predominantly for the K-12 education system. But we also want to prop up our community. And so a couple of things that we do in that way to make sure that our students, to help them be successful, have jobs and opportunities to go to, or if they want to start a business, we have a maker space and we also have a small business incubator that we, open up to the community, but also have students able to come in and get their hands on the equipment in the maker space and work with our entrepreneurs as mentors in our incubator. So we're all doing similar types of work in helping these folks, get their businesses up and going and be successful. So we're just trying to use the knowledge we have from our communities and what we're hearing from all of you to see how we can better help all of us be more successful.
So I guess right now it would be helpful for us also and for the AI. If everyone could go around the room and just introduce yourselves and if you're part of a business or an organization, or how did you get to be on this super awesome committee with Jamie? Don't all start at once, but I'll pick on you because you're right beside me. So
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah.
My name is Phil. My wife and I own 2 of the art galleries in Hendersonville and short distance away, Flat Rock. We've been doing that for the last 3.5 years. And somehow I got roped into being on these committees. But happy to be a part of the community and help build the business base here.
Thank you.
My name's Aaron. I'm the owner of White Duck Taco Shop on 7th Avenue, co-owner also with my wife. I've been a line cook for 20 years and just kind of worked my way up with White Duck and went to school to be a teacher. When I graduated, White Duck was taken off and it was kind of a pay cut to be a teacher from being a line cook at White Duck. And I think that's still true. So here I am. White Duck was just taken off.
Good for y'all, but man, that sucks for
That's,
teachers.
it seems incorrect, yeah.
Yeah.
I also had a question. Can you guys define incubator? I've never heard it used in this context.
Yeah.
What is an incubator?
So
in the world?
it can have a couple of different meanings by context, but basically think of a geographic space that is carved out with additional resources for an entrepreneur with an idea that can come and be a part, whether renting an actual physical office or a co-work space or just being in community with other entrepreneurs. And many times the space is heavily subsidized. So it provides a valuable resource to be a launch pad for an entrepreneurial idea. And so we've, in our 3 incubators, we have served over the last 12 years, 80 different entrepreneurs. We help them find funding. We've helped them find $20 million plus in capital acquisition. And we count like what jobs have been impacted. So it's really a space where a resource provider, so like in my case, a university that runs an incubator in 3 small towns, we want to provide the resources an entrepreneur needs. It can be defined many ways, though. I'm not.
When you say it's subsidized, you mean its funding is subsidized?
Yeah,
by the
so,
Government?
yeah,
Okay.
so for example, for us, if you rent a locked office in our space, it's $250.
Okay.
And that's inclusive of high-speed internet, 24-hour secure card access, and all the utilities are all included and beyond. So it would be impossible to go get that in a brick and mortar location at that kind of price. So we want to give it, it's a test spot for entrepreneurs to work on their idea.
Okay.
Great question.
I'm Oliver. I work with Mass General Store, which you may or may not have heard of if you travel around the Southeast. We have been in Hendersonville since 1995. The company, as it exists now, reopened 45 years ago in Valley Crucis, right outside of Boone, North Carolina. And it was very much a small business. It was mom and pop and two kids living in the building, bringing it back to life from scratch. Old historic general store. It's kind of an icon of that community. And then they expanded slowly and thoughtfully into communities that kind of matched the character. Southern communities, we save older buildings. We don't do any new construction, so we usually old retail spaces, at least 100 years old, in former prosperous, hopefully soon to be or currently prosperous again downtown areas. And try to be part of that revitalization. But we have 11 locations now. I've worked in 3. And been here about 3.5 years now. But the Mass is a medium-sized company, but we try to maintain the feel of a small business, a mom-and-pop business, and provide that level of customer service that you don't see much anymore. You still see it, it exists, but it's harder and harder to find. But happy to be a part of this today.
Can I ask a quick question? Yeah, please. Do you all own all your spaces or do you lease some as well?
We own almost all. I would say at least 10 of our locations we own. Our support facility, we own, where all our pricing and that kind of stuff goes on. We own it for sure. Yeah.
My name is Jerry. I am the general manager of Mount Deli down 4th and Main. I've been there, I think this is the 14th year now. Yeah, right. I've been a part of the board with Jamie for about 4 years, I believe it is now. And it's just, I don't know, I just really love this community. I moved here like about 15 years ago. And I think like day 2, I was like, yeah, this is the spot. So it's a beautiful community, great people, amazing people that work downtown to work with, and they've done an amazing job with it. So I'm just happy to see what they bring forth and what you guys can do to help us out also.
I'm Daniel Carey. I'm with Pisgah Legal Services, which is a nonprofit civil legal aid organization. So we provide basically any kind of legal help for people who qualify income wise, as long as it's not criminal. And we've been in business pushing 50 years. We're based in Asheville, but we've had a regional office here in Hendersonville for 30 years. And I've just been in the community about 5 and like it very much. But our footprint is across Western North Carolina. So we serve all 18 counties. It's a pretty big operation. As far as nonprofits go, it's a pretty big operation. It's about a $12 million annual budget. We have about 120 employees. So.
Okay, I'm the non-property owner, business owner, non-working person on the board. I left Michigan I retired June 2nd of 22, and I moved down here June 10th of 22. And I've always wanted to be involved in my community, but I always worked too many hours. I was a program manager for Chrysler in education and training. And so I worked a lot of hours. So when I got down here, I filled out this form that I was interested and gave them a little of my background, and they called me up and I met Jamie. I care about this community, and anything they want, I will do.
Top that.
I'm Mary Margaret Lecision, been in the area about 5 years. Last summer on July 5th, which was my Independence Day, I quit my corporate job
Oh, wow.
and transitioned full-time to my entrepreneurial venture, which we'll talk more about later. But my background's in real estate development, a lot of the placemaking, so translating some of the business into physical buildings. So I met Jamie because we're always talking about how to make the experience downtown better. And some of it's design, some of it's business, and a lot of the other layers. So that's how I got interested. And then my exodus translated to me creating Surface Area Partners, an LLC, which was designed to be a consultant or be able to help those that don't have that main focus of understanding how to translate their business to a place. And an incubator could probably help me focus that more. And I could use more assistance in my focus, because that's usually how I get lost.
And I'm Stephanie Sweeney. I'm the summer intern. I'm gonna be part of Jamie's team for the summer. But I do live on Main Street, so if you own a business, you have probably seen me walking my dog every day.
Do you come in masked?
I normally go to the front part of Mass, but she's not like somebody that I would not bring Jessie into the store. I mean, she's a good girl, but sometimes she has a little bit of thug in her. Or she's a really pretty girl. But I normally am out in front of Mass. Terrabella, so.
I'm Dakota Barber. I'm the event marketing assistant for downtown, and also manage the farmers market on Center.
Thanks, everyone.
Great group.
Awesome. Yeah. That's very diverse, which is great. So first question, no pressure. What kind of opportunities do you wish existed here for the local businesses and entrepreneurs?
Repeat that.
Sure. What kind of opportunities do you wish existed here for local business, like small businesses and entrepreneurs? Yeah, go ahead.
I think more of the storefronts on Main Street, I wish that they were more accessible and being utilized. So I don't know if that's adjusting rent or adjusting the size, or but basically just having the smaller space that had the front door on Main Street.
Do you mean as far as like there being like empty space, that type of thing? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we have
It's not
a
there.
space, but not a lot of it's like the walk-in experience, like
Right.
you're not a destination.
Okay,
Like offices and stuff
We have
too.
so many realty offices.
yeah, no, that's true. That is very true.
I guess, add maybe a finer point would be, because we're looking for office space right now. So there's a dearth
There is none.
of office space in Hendersonville. And so we need, because our we need to be accessible and present, and so that's why I may wind up over here temporarily.
Invisibility.
Yes, ma'am. Presence and visibility, you're right.
I think we need a younger cohort to support our older cohort. There's a lot of people with experience, but not a lot of opportunities for those inexperienced, you might say. At least from what I see.
What do you mean by all that?
There's a gap in the middle class.
Hmm.
As well as the younger age demographic.
Well, there is a dearth of office space, but not vacancy.
Yeah.
Affordable. So there's a lot of buildings empty. For a myriad of reasons. But the business community outside of property owners have no ability, no control. The city doesn't have, you know, the clause, the tools to bring those vacancies forward to be business viable. So I think that's a glaring issue that we have here right now. Then secondary to that would be, in my mind, is just a guiding hand in the business community or in the city, right, to help new businesses form sympathetic business entities that fit and marry with the environment that we're trying to foster. Cell phone stores across the street are not conducive to a tourist Main Street USA environment. I mean, who's going there? You
I
know?
think to your point, the property owners and the business owners are not one and the same.
No,
Yeah.
They're not.
they are not.
Yeah, and then the property owners want creditworthy tenants,
Mhm.
and typically those don't match the local idea of having a destination or smaller business.
And a very nice local artist was, I believe, basically pushed out of that space because he couldn't afford it.
I think that there was
Well,
some
it's
push out there.
retiring.
He was,
Yes.
so retiring.
Yeah, they were moving on.
Okay.
I think it might have sped it up though. Their rent rate might have sped that
Yeah.
up.
Well, it probably spurred it along.
Yeah.
But at the same time, for that kind of a business, then to move into a corner, I mean, that's
Prime location.
Yeah.
prime real estate
Yeah.
right there, okay? Well, you know, whoever's gonna write the rent check. But, you know, that happens because there are no regulations or ordinances or
Activity finding good fits.
so there's nothing that the city can do, you know, to manicure the development of compatible businesses that would bring more traffic, more tourism, you know, make more destinations in those businesses. We're on 7th, which is newly refurbished. Got in there 3.5 years ago on the promise that this would be kind of curated as a arts historical district, you know, so food, you know, higher end. And so that's, you know, the vision for that area, but there's no
guardrails,
no
protection.
There's no protection against that going to hell in a handbasket, which, you know, one step's already been taken. So, you know, there are both public and private issues that need to be addressed to help guide this city, you know, where I think everybody wants it to go, like most people.
Similarly to what Phil's talking about, he's kind of on the city end of things and the over big picture things. I've found the network that I have of professionals, other business owners, that sort of thing has been super valuable to me. In the little bit that we've been open, I'm sure that's true for every business owner, but having access or organizing that kind of network of resources is something I've had to figure out on my own. And the better I get at it, the better advantaged I am in my business. And I think like a new business owner, a new restaurateur would have a really hard time with that. Like I went in today and my fryer didn't turn on. So my cook's like, what do I do? That would shut me down. 4 years ago. You know, we were just closed while I figured it out. But now I got a guy that I can call. He's got a guy that he can call. I know that guy's number and that's been developing for me where I feel like there's a shortcut for that. If I have legal troubles right now, I don't really have many resources that I can go to without, you know, a consultation fee, $200 just to sit down for an hour and talk to somebody about it. Things like that type of networking.
What would you say the community perception is of entrepreneurs? Many of you own a business, work in a business, or part of a business. What's the community perception of entrepreneurs or entrepreneurship?
I think it's very supportive. I mean, there's a lot of small businesses here with very successful people running. My one question is what happens when they retire? And I haven't seen that continuity. It just seems to happen behind the scenes or networking wise, but like, I know my husband would love to leave corporate America and take over someone's business here, but we just haven't figured out that connect.
Like we were talking about with the artists, that's what happens. They leave and then someone big corporate moves in because they got the cash and they're ready to go. I see a lot of people ready to work and not a lot of places for them to go. I have tons of restaurant friends and they're ready to, you know, they own a food truck ready for a brick and mortar. They can't find a landlord to play ball with them. They can't find a price that's a decent location for them to survive. Some of them, you know, like Papa's and Beer, they took that spot over on Spartanburg Highway. A brand like that will draw people to them. Right across the street from them, Zen Hen just went down. That was an independent, brand new concept. The guy knew what he was doing. It was an excellent product and it went down just because of the market kind of.
Yeah, I'd agree that they're very supportive of the entrepreneurial endeavors here. Looking and see how many breweries and, you know, bars and so forth, restaurants that we have. You know, then at the same time, you've got small, I mean, tiny startups that should not be starting up because they don't have the horsepower, they don't have the pockets to attempt it. And then that's a, you know, that's a short-term, a medium-term run.
Right.
Which is, that's a speed bump for what the overall market is trying to do, or the overall entrepreneurial market is trying to do, right? But in general, yeah, I think this is a very supportive area.
I'd say super strong and almost averse to non-entrepreneurial businesses. People are getting sick of the Walmarts and the Sam's Clubs.
Yeah.
They're starting to get tired of Ingles too. There just aren't many other options to compete with them. Given a small scale option, I think people go to that. The Hispanic markets around town killing it. They're doing awesome. The Wow supermarket and Los Nenes, you know, I don't know those brands outside of here. Wow is big in Mexico. That's kind of like an Ingles type of a brand, but Los Nenes, they're independent. They're doing their own thing and thriving. You know? So people have the support and the desire to support entrepreneurs, especially I think if you have money or you're a tourist, you want some of the local flavor. You don't want to go on vacation and then go eat at, you know, a chain place that you can find in your own home.
So I think we're hearing that there is support in the community and especially from, it sounds like, the residents to shop local and all of that. What specifically are some resources that any of you have used in starting or growing your business that is in the community or provided by the community?
The city is great about just bringing people out of the house. If you have a business that's close to where people are, they're going to know about you because the city will bring them there. So they like shutting down the main street and having the events. And I think it's harder if you're in a retail spot because, you know, nobody's shopping for like dog food when we're partying on the street. But, you know, it is visibility, it's traffic and people know about you. But the ones that are conducive to that kind of thing, I think they definitely appreciate the city being
The city has also been very good with just basic promotion of the downtown, not just events. I know right after like Helene, they were doing going around getting a lot of like reels and stuff done of all the local businesses trying to show that, hey, we're here, we're back, we're ready for you guys. So they were on top of that. And they've also just in general, I think over the years been very good about promotion through social media of just random businesses or new and upcoming businesses, being on top of when there is like turnover of ownership, promoting like, the place is still here, it might be new owners, but it's still the same feel. So I think the city's been amazing when it's come to that promotions, not just through events, but also just basic social media presence, which has been fantastic. That's what's downtown and the city itself.
I've just found that like you can join 100 different memberships. And I'm like, I don't have that right now for cash flow. So like the chamber's really good. The partnership would be happy to help you refer, but you've got to join them. You've got to join the chamber. You gotta like, just seems like a lot of those kinds of things, but they are great once you get there and they're really not expensive. It's just probably not a day one activity.
But both when Phil and Aaron spoke, it made me start thinking about what kind of, between like businesses, what kind of connections are being made to help share information. That was the question I got when both of you spoke, because other restaurant owners can give you, okay, here's how you get your fire going again or something. But I mean, do you have to go out and get those connections on your own?
Much. It's easy when there's business related, like I gotta hire this guy to fix my fryer, and then if somebody's like, hey, my fryer's broken, it's like, oh, I got a guy. But if I'm not motivated by something urgent or money, then it's really hard to find these people or to have the forethought to think ahead of like, I'm gonna need this when my fryer breaks.
Right. Yeah.
Having that in one centralized place, or like what you said, what you do, like if you're starting a new business, like there's a million questions. I always wish there was somebody I could call and say, hey, what do I do?
Yeah, if you don't have background in it already,
Right.
then it's a long, hard
It's
road.
overwhelming, just navigating,
Yeah.
I call it the minutia,
Yeah.
all of the little, because it's the little things that usually do you in. It's like this, you know your skill, you know your craft, you know what you're doing, but it's like if you step out of line or you don't follow one rule, it tends to be the thing that disrupt.
Yeah, I think the story here is like every other market
Yeah.
that you go into, right? I mean, unless you've got deep pockets to start your business,
Yeah.
right? Depending on what that plan looks like, right? Then it's a steep hill to find resources, funding primarily, right? To put a new small business in operation. We started the gallery 3.5 years ago, right? In this town, well, in this state and several others in the area. When you lease a space, right? It's all you. Okay, you're doing all the property work.
Yeah.
To make that a suitable business location, right? And you're doing it right now. Write the check, right?
Yeah.
$250,000 to open a gallery. If I'd been in Texas, where I spent most of my adult life, that's called construction allowance, and it's prorated over the term of lease. And so, yes, you're still paying for it, but you're paying for it over time, right? That is huge, right? And, the property owner, I mean, it's built in. And they're getting the same return as these guys here. But this, look,
It's all up front.
this mechanism is all up front, and it makes it very, very difficult to move into a space that doesn't suit your needs exactly, so you've got to do some work to it. And I know Aaron's aware of that, I'm aware of that,
He knows my construction guys, they're on the same block as me.
Yeah.
So I'm super lucky, but if I was across town, I'd be on my own. Right now, my door breaks. I'm like, hey, Dunlap, come look at this for me. And they're like, okay.
Yeah.
But that's just, again, it's just my network, my own personal relationship with
To
them.
that point, if you have to fund your tenant improvements, TI, right? You have to be underwritten by a bank. And a lot of our small businesses here don't have that.
Right.
And to your point, the cash flow, I know some businesses here on Main Street. Well, I mean, you could say they got past COVID, but now Helene hit. And that was, 2 to 4 weeks of uncertainty, maybe more. And that's where they need a letter of credit or some sort of cash flow just to get them through the worst of it. And I feel like I'm hearing that that's been the hardest part. Cause they're bootstrapped it and they've done it. They've done the hard part and then
Yeah, keep doing it.
you just gotta, if you don't have if you've already, spent it all in TI, you don't have your backup cash flow to.
If you can't write the check on an ongoing basis, and keep your head above water in doing that, then, there's no, very little, not no, but there's very little backup here in terms of those resources. The second gallery, we walked in, it was 9 years old, right? And the owner says, I gotta go back to Texas. Would you take the gallery? Okay, so we bought the gallery, but it was fully operational, employed, the whole 9 yards. I mean, that's a slam dunk. I didn't have to remodel the place, right? But those instances are few and far between.
Yeah.
And we've talked about it in here before, but from the city's perspective, when a small business is met with these problems, it is just on me. I feel like I gotta bootstrap it. The city then becomes an adversary. They're gonna slow me down. They're gonna get in my way. They're gonna tell me to do it again. So it becomes my advantage to just do it first, ask for forgiveness instead of asking for permission. Whereas a better way would be if those resources were available to me and I didn't have to guess or just make it happen on my own. The city would have a better control over the big picture of all of it. I would feel more supported and like I don't have to just guess or like I'm trying to get away with something, which sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do just to get the door open. But that was the kind of attitude of opening, was just like, do what you gotta do, get the doors open and get to work as fast as you possibly can.
I guess the slightly different perspective I would add would be from a nonprofit standpoint, and that is there are a lot of healthy, active, very effective and successful nonprofits in this small community. I mean, I always say that we fight about 2 or 3 weight classes above where we actually are in terms of our nonprofits and what we're able to do.
At least.
As across the board. I mean, there's just more good ones and, you can shake a stick at. But, it's still competitive and the environment among nonprofits is very good. It's collegial. It's just like the for-profit side. There's a lot of sharing, no sharp elbows, anything like that. I would say, and this is less so with the city and more so with the county, that that the support that we get from those entities that could and should do it, because in effect, we're doing something they now do not have to do. We're filling gaps, all of us. And they don't really recognize it. It's just sort of it's like this, real kind of shorthanded and tight and kind of, and I think they're missing something there, because if you add up all of the nonprofits and their payrolls and the fact that they live in the community, they're not really looking at us as small businesses, even though in effect we are. And so it's sort of short-sighted, I think. It's just more of I think they look at it more as some kind of quasi welfare state. Like if they're going to help these nonprofits, it's, well, okay, because we'll do something, but we're not really helping them. It's just to kind of ease our conscience a little bit.
That's a good way to put it, but we are several weight classes above most location areas like this. I mean, you're talking, less than 20,000 people. And the number of nonprofits that we have, that are asking for money.
Mhm.
And to what Dan just, the businesses are not businesses, they're not partners, they're contributors or donors, right? And so everybody is slammed. And some of the larger, more sustainable nonprofits do fairly well and have the bigger corporate benefactors or individuals and so forth, while others are literally starving on the vine, even though we have a Hendersonville Symphony Orchestra that cannot raise enough money on an annual basis to pay for 5 concerts. All right, now for a county, city like this to have a professional symphony orchestra, number one, is off the charts. It does not happen, right? But due to circumstances of nearby cities, they're able to amalgamate the symphony musicians, and all those musicians go around to 5 different cities where they play, so they are supported, right? The symphony is professional, first class, doesn't have a facility, plays in a community college, right? But they can't afford to buy a contemporary piece of music for the symphony to try and take in new visitors, new attendance, right? The young are looking for different music. Well, that music is, $100,000 a copy. And so you can't play it. And the symphony doesn't have that network, with the other symphonies where they can, beg and swap. Because Greenville can afford, right? Better stuff. After Helene, right? And I'm on a nonprofit. My wife is the board chairman. And after Helene, we knew immediately that everybody was gonna feel the burn, right? Because donations, contributions were projected and it's showing up. They're down by 40%. And that hits the big guys and the little guys. But they still ring that phone up and say, hey, can you come, you gonna help the Playhouse? Wait a minute, Playhouse is bigger than I am. How about you help me? So that's, the nonprofit situation here really is pretty complex and difficult to manage.
But the community college, I think, is trying. They're pretty innovative and seem to adapt pretty well, from at least from my perception. So I think, my beef is that it's, in my mind, very inconvenient. It's surrounded by nothing, and you can't really get there except for without a car. So in my mind, if there was just more ways to get around without a car, so then as an entrepreneur, you're not paying for gas and insurance, and your parking. But that's a whole other story. And then housing is always an issue. Smaller and more diverse types close in, and some of that can go back to zoning. But that's not necessarily business incubator, but just.
It all affects it.
It does.
Yeah, absolutely. But the flexibility to provide, like you said, there's no office right now, no office space. And that is due to Helene, which wiped out supply temporarily for some, permanently for others. But we also just don't have that kind of move up space. So if a company is getting bigger, where do they go? That kind of opportunity. And some of the construction is being, I would say, blocked by some of these property owners that don't seem to have any motivation to improve or kind of experiment with, I mean, like Badcock's becoming a gym. That'd be a perfect apartment complex, which I know that word's terrifying and not what anyone wants to hear, but it would be a great in-town housing place.
Yeah.
Couple stories.
The gym.
Yeah.
Or we
The
hoping,
why and the.
Yeah.
You are. You are. Yeah.
or we just running our mouth.
No, you are.
But you could need a gym if you live downtown.
Well, there's,
You can walk.
there's literally the why.
No, but
There's
mentally,
why.
people cannot, that walk. is
You walk
so-
down the.
Exactly, but I'm just saying, like, if we could just make it all easier.
Yeah.
Agree.
What, this is just more of a question, which that maybe the point will follow, I'm not sure. But, and this, it's maybe more for Jamie, but what, what would you say is the health of the downtown tax base in terms of property taxes? Now, I ask that because between government and churches and nonprofits that own some property, it can't be great because they're not paying property taxes. And I'm wondering if the city has ever gotten to the point where they start looking at that, like, gee whiz, well, they're only 40% of our property downtown is generating taxes.
I don't have the number, or I can get it. I don't have like the percentage, but in our municipal service district footprint, there's not a lot of churches that are in the MSD because the big church is a block south of it.
See,
And that was part of the reason why initially they never expanded it any further to the visitor center block because there's no property on that block that generates tax. Except for Truist Bank, yeah. We have talked in the comp plan in this committee about expanding the district. Cause I want to get the Cedars property in it. Because that would significantly increase the tax revenue for the district. Government would be still fairly small percentage within the MSDs because like, I think of like the Skyland, every individual unit's condo, so it's individually, that each pays taxes. One thing, and this Seventh is more susceptible to changes because even though geographically it's a larger district, it's more spread out. It's not all condensed in like how Main Street is. And so any change of property, like when the rescue mission bought the brewery, like that is a hit. Because there's only, it's a larger percentage of the total amount. A bigger hit happened in Seventh when a business, and I didn't even know the business was there. And I can't remember what, it was like a mail, like they did mail distribution or something, and they left the district and went somewhere else, and it was their business personal property tax. That how whatever the calculation is on that tax, their exit was a big dent coming out of it. But it was like $1 million valuation or something of business personal property. Because at first we were like, man, the brewery getting sold really was a big hit, but it was really that business personal property leaving. Which kind of, the more things we have, in that denser area, as far as in upper floors, anything built having upper floors is important. And then that adds to the quality or types of businesses that are in there as far as tax revenue generation.
I was asking that question in the context of, I trust that the city looks at this, they try to forecast like,
Yeah,
we need to expand or do we need to change our tax base? Some of these really third rail questions, I understand, but it just goes to that long-term vision of what do we want this place to look like and be like and.
Well, and because we have so much land, I mean, outside of Main Street, I mean, it really, the concentration just goes down. And that's where infrastructure costs go up. And like all sorts of problems happen. So in some regards, you almost want a fence around Main Street. It's like you join in and then it's like a very tight, you know, high demand, tight supply, and then you can start to work. But at the same time, you can't always afford that. Like prices don't work. So what drives me crazy is the church parking lots that aren't,
Yeah,
they're just, or any parking lot really, but it's just not being utilized. That would be a great thing to look at. So like 9 to 5 businesses next to 5 to 9, you know, like we pair those two things so they can start to share resources.
Well, property values do not escalate on Main Street, right? If you let your building run down, and you're not incentivized to put money into it so that you can get a return on it. Most of these buildings are owned by old money. Most of them. And a lot of those aren't even resident. You know, they're absentee trusts. And they're content just to let them ride, right? And that's a goodly number, right? So nothing happens to them. And so that tax-based portion never.
It's artificially low if it were.
Yeah, it's low to begin with, and you know, there's no hope of bringing it up unless you take steps to, you know, push back on that and say, hey, you know, if it's not repaired, if it's not upgraded, you know, we're taking it away. Eminent domain. But the tax base here, and then if you've got inappropriate businesses that just don't work, right? There's no money coming from that either.
Well,
There's no sales tax.
as John Connick puts it, we're a strong property rights state.
Yeah.
And I mean, you can't even regulate gun shops downtown. Like the state will not let you regulate.
You can put a weed shop next to the high school if you wanted to.
You can. So we have a lot of the strong property rights that conflicts with a lot of the other goals. And if you have an empty space and someone wants to fill it, the numbers will usually talk.
I think one of the things that we've discovered in talking with different communities and groups is that the one thing that is not lacking is passion.
Mhm.
You know, and whether it's an entrepreneur, nonprofit, the government, supporting entities and things like that, everybody's really passionate about their community. Sometimes it's for something that they wish they could change. And sometimes it's for something that they're really proud of. And, you know, so if I go around this group and if you were all of a sudden just hired as the head of marketing for Hendersonville and for what are you most proud of? What makes you proud to be part of this community?
I think it's exactly what you just said. It's community. I think it's just the idea of that especially within the downtown area, it is a large and close community. We're all connected to each other. We all help each other whenever we possibly can. Like Aaron was saying, with like when he's got issues, he has guys to call, and that's because he just learned through probably talking to other restaurateurs in the area, because we were willing to communicate and discuss and come together with these things. And I think that's a lot of the reason why this particular area will thrive, is because you have that sense of familiarity, that sense of community, that sense of passion for everything that is the downtown. And those are the people that generally work here. That's people that generally shop here, that hang out here, that you know, join these boards because they are passionate about it and they love the idea of it being a family-like community, a close-knit connection with everybody. It doesn't matter if you're a restaurant, a retailer, a nonprofit, whatever it is. We all know each other. We all work together. You know, we don't see a difference in each other outside of the things that we sell out of the stores. And that's pretty much it. That's the only difference. We're all the same and we all help each other, especially when there's hardships, COVID, Helene, you know, any and every little disaster that can come through here. I have never seen a community come together more in the places that I've lived than a place like this when hardships like that hit. how hard they come together and how fast they do it too. It's like literally like a light switch. You know, there could be a volcano could erupt Main Street and 5 minutes later, everybody's already downtown. Like, it's just, that's just how it is. Like, everybody comes together that fast. And I think that's what it is. It's that word. It's community. This is epitome of a community here.
You're exactly right.
Yeah.
When my friends from Michigan come and I take them out to show 'em my new home, it's like the pride in the people, the businesses, and it's wonderful. It really is.
Very active.
Yeah.
Yeah, during Helene, I live in a community that's all ages, and there's a number of them that are even older than me. And every morning, once the one grocery store opened, I'd say, I'm leaving at 9 o'clock, everybody get over here. And I'd fill my car and I'd drive them through town to that one grocery store. We'd get our coffee. They could shop, one at a time can go through. I'd load them up and take them back. But it was all the people in that grocery store who were so kind to us. So caring about taking time to add up on their phones what you're buying because there's no computers and treat everybody so nicely. And that's Hendersonville.
And in a slightly more like concrete way, I would say the scale for now, unless it changes, but the scale and the walkability are two very tangible reasons why it's such a great place, because it's humanely scaled and designed and accessible, and we're gonna be walking to Seventh, we're gonna come off of Main and we're gonna walk to Seventh, and I think that's really important, so. Anyway.
The investment in downtown and the landscaping, so nice that people want to steal it apparently. But yeah, I mean, it's gorgeous, the tulips this time of year and spring and fall, especially in Christmas with all the lights and everything, but people want to come just to see, not even for a particular shop or a particular restaurant, they just want to see Main Street. Which is.
Yeah, the wander factor,
Yeah.
like people just come and wander, which I think is incredible.
I think it's such a lot of what breeds that is that this area has such a wonderful mix of incredibly beautiful and attractive components, right? The mountains, nature, the waterfalls, all the things that tourists come here, summer long to see. But we get to live it, right? Permanently. And that in itself, because it serves to breed contentment and satisfaction and joy. I've been here 6.5 years and this is freaking paradise. All right. And I've been around the world 6 times. So I think it makes people feel good to be here, and that fuels the community. It doesn't matter what you voted, right? Because when the call goes out, or when it's rhythm and blues time, right? Everybody's there. It doesn't matter.
I think there's a ton of opportunity. I think in regards, this economy of Hendersonville is maturing. I mean, it's not established in only the big dogs. So like I see it as it's getting there. So I still see a ton of opportunity to be able to either take someone's existing idea and make it better or come up with your own. And those ideas are also, I think, listened to when you are able to participate in groups like this. I think there's a lot of experimentation that they'll kind of be open to. We could probably do more, but like the Bears on Main Street. I mean, that was probably somebody's idea and it's been going strong for a long time. So those kind of ideas can be supported and really become a big impact.
The city's always very active and whatever your criticism of what they're doing or not, they're always doing something. And so if you're living here and you're not active in the community, as soon as you take a look, there's people doing stuff. There's art on the side, on the streets and everything, and there's events going on. And so if you want it, it's there. And the city's always good about, you know, if this works, okay, that didn't work, we won't do that again. Or let's try out something else next time. And they're just very constant with that sort of thing.
I don't know about the county.
And city of Hendersonville is pretty good, pretty active.
Are there innovators or leaders within the business community that serve as mentors or that newer business can go to and they're willing to like share? I heard lots of experience, right? There are those that have lots of experience, the newer ones that maybe don't. Is there that intergenerational sharing between older business owners and younger ones?
I think there's people you can talk to, but I think it's what Aaron said. You've got to start reaching out to them and asking them. I think.
Yeah, they're clearly there. It's just like you said, you have to look for it. There's no.
Good name, like if.
I'm sure between the two of us, if we were to sit here and name like random restaurateurs in the area, that'd be like, hey, if we want some advice or something, these are probably the ones to talk to, ones that have been here long enough, that have dug themselves into the community. But it is one of those, like, we would have to go out and find those people. You would have to ask for them. There's no specific resource or place or a center or even a website of any kind that just has it.
Right.
So it's findable, you just have to go find it.
And it is
readily available.
It is a lot of bootstrap type businesses too. So the one person that I really want to talk to, I probably can't get that guy's number, you know, whoever that might be. Like I moved in, we have a similar operation like Hot Dog World and they've been here forever.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I don't know who the owner of Hot Dog World is. I don't know how to ask them questions if I wanted to. I would have to go down there, yeah, and say like, hey, who runs this place? Can I talk to him? But it would look like,
Same family.
yeah. See, like, say, I don't know that, but
It's
Nancy's
a good Greek.
been here a long time. She knows that.
I hear they have a good Greek salad.
Oh, they have.
Hot Dog World salad, they got a good.
Yeah, but-
good operation.
Everyone talks about their Greek.
Yeah. But my daughter was just here for 5 days and she's not happy I'm not in Michigan. So over the past I've been here 3 years now. She comes down for a week at least 2 or 3 times a year. This year, she's a principal now, so it's probably only gonna be 2 times. But every time we walk Main Street definitely. And I think we ate at 6 or 7 different restaurants in the 5 days. And I have not hit the same restaurant twice, but all the small shops, she loved all those. When we saw you, that was my daughter with me.
Oh.
So it was like, she goes, I know why you love it here, Mom. But you know, when you can't take care of yourself anymore, you're going back to Michigan. But I mean, she knows I love it. She loves it here. And it's all I drag my friends out to all these places all the time. Come on, to get 3 Chopped is one of our new favorites. And those people just rebuilt their home after Helene and now it's been burned down by the fires, the owner of that place.
They were like,
you know.
retiring.
Oh.
They were like super close.
They were right there.
They've been working their asses
Yeah.
off, like.
Yeah, so it's like, we all know that, we all reach out to everybody and, you know, I bring 4 or 5 ladies into your place. We have lunch, we have a good time. It's like, all right, what's new? What can we do? I'm the social chair of my HOA. And we use a different restaurant for all our catering. We have a monthly event. 3 Chops gonna do our May one. You know, so we use different restaurants for all those. But it's what it's all about. There's so much here. But I don't see the communication going between these businesses that maybe we could instigate something like that where we come together like a collective of restaurant owners or collective of.
Well, and this is not a pointed question. It's truly because I don't know, but would that be a role for the chamber, for example?
I don't know the answer
It's a
to that.
join, so it's not.
Yeah, and
Well, initial, how do you get people?
It would be if the chamber was a chamber, right? But they don't,
This is a safe
evolve
space.
their, yeah.
They do ribbon cuttings,
Yeah.
they do ribbon cuttings and what
I
else?
feel like the change does something every day as far as networking.
I've not been in any city, so this is not
Uh-huh.
a shot at this bill, but I've never seen a chamber in my 50 years in business that did what they said they were doing or wanted to do. It just never was materialized. And yeah, they should be building a network, right? But, you know, they get diverted for some reason.
But why couldn't the city take something? I know you do a lot with communication with the businesses, but maybe we could, I don't know if you get them out though.
Yeah, that'd be.
Yeah. Yeah.
I get an email like that and I'd be like, man,
Yeah,
Yeah.
Stop that.
I don't know, but how do you convince a guy like me that that's worthwhile? You know?
we tried to do, not specifically with business owners, but with downtown employees, because that was our big conversation a couple years ago, was like service industry workers and workers on Main Street and building them up. And we did like a walking tour, paid for their dinner.
Wanted to create a whole ambassador thing. for that.
Yeah, and we had a fair amount to come to one, and then we tried another one, it had nobody.
No.
And so that's just like, I don't, for me, just putting the energy into something that doesn't get people coming.
Well, and I think the reason that failed was going back to where it started, right, is this business network of, you know, entrepreneurs and business owners and so forth. That was tried also,
Yeah,
right? Prior to that, for Main Street, no, nobody wanted to participate, wanted anything to do with it. And so if you can't get the business owners to understand that there's benefit, even profit, from collaborating and working together and communicating, then
I think it happens more organically than anything, because they all talk, they all know what's going on, you know, on Main Street or on Seventh before I find out a large,
Oh, yeah, there is a
Party.
social aspect where it does happen.
because it's just people talking to
True.
the building next door.
I get an email of this event's happening, I'm kind of like, okay, another email. But if Brenda next door is like, hey, this is happening, let's go, I'm like, okay, I'll be there.
Yeah,
Well, I think a lot of it is like, when we get those emails, like, or even those little, like once a month, used to bring around little like
Mhm.
letter packet things. I mean, we look at them for like a second and then we put them away. I think 90% of the times we all kind of know what's in it, but because, all right, Garden Jubilee's coming up. Well, we know that it's Memorial Day weekend, like, so I think that's a lot of the reason why we like sort of disregard, but as soon as that neighbor says something, it's just like, oh, you're talking about it, sure, let's go. Yeah.
and it's to cover.
But I think there is a bit of a social aspect of downtown that does help with some of that. It's probably not being utilized the way that it should be utilized, essentially, kind of like what we're talking, helping to create that network.
The signs there.
It's like, it's more of like a gossipy kind of a thing, but on a good note.
Yeah.
And not as much about the networking side of it, but I mean, that is there, but like, just like everything else, like we were saying, like, you just have to reach out to get it. It's not just readily.
Pay attention, yeah.
Pay attention, yeah.
Ask the bartenders.
Mhm.
Well, what I'm thinking, does everybody have Nancy's cell phone number? Because I'd be the first person I'd call for behind the scenes. What's going on? But I think when you look at the fact that, obviously you want to be a part of this community, but yet you're a consumer in this community and you see a lot. And I think so often, and I was a business owner my whole career before I got into higher education. And the reality of it is the minute we lose sight of what our customer wants, we've already lost. If we haven't kept up with that. So I think, as we talk to all the different groups, all the different people that, provide, whether they provide services or things to entrepreneurs, or whether you're entrepreneurs yourself, or whether you support entrepreneurs, all of that thing makes up the recipe, and it's like when you go to mess with the recipe, you can screw up the whole thing, or you can create something beautiful.
Right.
And I think as a community, just gonna say this, you know, I've been in your community 24 hours now. And I'm blown away. You've got something magical here, people.
We do.
And I think as an outsider and having visited a lot of places, there's a lot of good. And even though sometimes there's disconnectedness between building owners and the businesses and there's that exists everywhere. And I just wanted to compliment everyone in this community that there's something magical happening here. And you're part of that. You know, you're making that happen. I enjoyed that walk today. I saw the whole thing, you know, and I thought, wow.
Oh, we noticed. I saw you guys walk right by. You didn't. Katie, there's Dakota. They're not coming in.
Here's part of Jerry.
He does make a delicious sandwich.
But we need to get some.
I think Daniel was right that the scale is kind of important. We're just on the cusp of small town, big city. And it's small town enough that like when Halloween hits, the landlord of my building is on this board. She's not here today, but she also owns another property. It's rented out by Moe's Barbecue right now. They got smashed by the lake. The whole store was underwater. They started to GoFundMe and we kicked in a little bit, and Erica, my landlord, she was kind of surprised by that. We're supposed to be in competition, right? We're both restaurants, you know, and like we're in competition in the sense of like this one guy's gonna have lunch, he's only gonna go to one restaurant, but we're not like in Chicago where like I'm fighting every day's life and death. It's like the rising tide really does raise all ships. If Moe's does well, they're gonna talk about how we helped them. We're gonna send people over there. They're gonna send people to us and the network.
Sometimes there's a carload that half of them want to go to Moe's and half wants to go.
And that's where you kick it.
I have noticed that a lot of the businesses of downtown, at least over the past, I guess, over a decade now. There's been a lot of cross promotion with a lot of them, which has been really nice. Just for whatever reason, there could be random events like GoFundMe style things that we're just like, we need to promote that. Or just in general, like not too long ago, Wine Sage and us were talking about doing some sort of a little weird collaboration, like even if it was just for the day of like, come over and get lunch here and go bring it over and have a glass of wine. So there's a lot of like talk between them, and a lot of the businesses have been very good about cross promotion and not trying to compete, so to speak. You know, I mean, like Three Chops is like literally right around the corner from us. And, you know, I'm not gonna sit here and try to compete with them. I mean, honestly, I hope people go there because they need that if they went through something devastating, you know, help them out. I would be totally fine with that. You know, there's no competition in my eyes. It's just, we're all in it together. Yeah.
Well, the thing that we all want or realize, you know, for the area is that it has to be a destination, right? And that's not just, you know, one business,
right,
or even one college, right? It takes everybody's participation, successful participation. And that's why, you know, I was begging for another gallery right across the street. It's not a competition. It's an attraction, right? It's a destination which increases my traffic. We do, every third Friday, we do a wine and live music and artist demonstration. At 6:30, we lock the door and we go across the street to a high-end whiskey and restaurant and continue the party over there, right? That fuels her business as well as gives exposure, you know, to both entities. And we do that out in Flat Rock. It's just what is needed, all right, for the businesses to work together, collaborate, you know, share the customer base, because that will make it grow.
This has been a great conversation.
If you could change one thing, add one thing to help make Hendersonville even more successful, what would it be?
I feel like it's loaded questions.
I think it's like you said, I think fill the upper floors with whatever, but primarily, I think. housing would be-
I personally would love to see somewhere in the downtown area. And perhaps this answers your question in some ways, and if it doesn't, I'm just throwing it out there for everybody else. A really great event space.
Yes.
That could be a nice draw downtown, a place that is like, that could promote like music or like live theater of some sort. I mean, I know we have the theaters in Flat Rock and everything, and there's some up in Asheville and everything, but it'd be really nice if we had like a really like event space for like music and live performances, somewhere in the downtown area, which would help with a bigger draw. I think would also help with a draw in our off season too, because I mean, during the summer, we have the whole Rhythm and Brews thing, which brings in huge amounts of people for that. And it's a great event for the entire town. But if you had an event space, like an indoor event space, you could in some way sort of continue that momentum going in through the off season. And then it becomes a little bit more of like a nice place to hang out in the off season because, you know, place to go catch good. I mean, the breweries get great music, they do, but they're not going to get perhaps bigger venue people like you could get at, say, a Rhythm and Brews, because they're smaller spaces. And they're promoting the local bands, which is great also. But to have a nice event space, which I personally was really hoping for the Badcock area, that would have been an amazing space for that. Some sort of amphitheater or indoor theater style space, and there would have been huge on that end of town. But I would love to see something like that in the downtown area. I think that would help with the demographic that is also changing. Also would just help in the future, just I think just for revenue overall for the downtown all year round.
If I could change one thing, it's gonna be a weird thing. When I walk around downtown, I just love the look of it all. But if you look up to the second floor, it's mostly closed blinds, closed blinds, closed blinds. That's not welcoming to me. And I don't know if it's because they're not leased or not rented or anything like that. But I would love to start seeing prettier upstairs windows. I'm sorry, I'm the non-working person, but you know, but in Mooresville, when we were there for the conference, even the second floor looked pretty. And we don't have that here. I noticed that, so that's my weird thing.
Okay, someone once told me their wish was to take away all the satellite dishes. On buildings, like.
Now that you mentioned.
Anything, yeah. Sometimes that's the only way you can get cable is.
Yeah, but to me, all those blinds are not welcoming.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a thoughtfully filling the spaces that aren't.
Yeah, use what you have, yeah.
I think we had all our
Yeah,
questions.
we did.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any questions for us? We could try to answer if you have any. But otherwise, we can let you go enjoy your evening.
So I'll just ask just from my downtown area, which is not dissimilar from yours at all. But one of our biggest complaints from our merchants is parking.
Oh, boy.
No one. Like, we've not heard it. We have not heard it all day, and I'm like.
We've been talking about it for years.
Yeah, come here last year.
it's like, this is so amazing.
It's yeah.
Interviews and no one has.
Wait.
Everybody go there.
I mean, I guess the short answer on that is like, with the parking situation here, when it first sort of went into like the whole paid parking. Yeah, that was all this town wanted to talk about it, negative or positive, whatever you want to call it. There was no in between whatsoever. And I think many of us that work downtown or hang out downtown, we've heard it on a daily basis to the point of like, I'm done.
Okay.
But you still see it from time to time, but I feel like in a lot of ways, it has calmed down a lot.
It has.
Which has been nice. I think people have sort of gotten used to it.
Okay.
I do
Really
think.
care about it, you just stay home.
Yeah, and the ones that weren't coming back to the downtown, first of all, like, you know what? That's on you, because if you don't want to support the small business, just because you have to pay $1.50 or $2 or whatever it is, or don't even have to, because 99% of the time, there's free parking.
Get in and out.
It's in the garage or 1 block away, there's free parking all over this place. It's just a matter of going to it and knowing where to look for it. But I think it's the talk has died down quite a bit. It's still there. But it's definitely not the forefront anymore, which is good. At least that's what I have noticed. I don't want to speak. for everybody.
I agree. Was the parking garage a welcome addition?
3 years ago, it was free parking downtown and everybody hated when that left. We
Okay.
took something away from
Yeah.
But everyone's been saying that they wanted a garage and needed more parking for 40 years.
Where the heck?
Right?
They'll love it when the revenue starts rolling in consistently year after year. They'll go, that was a good idea.
And I'll.
Everyone loves the garage, they don't pay the meter.
It's not that, you know, the next.
Those are the same group that you referred to earlier when you.
Yeah, but, yeah, you know, it will never change for that.
Right.
That select,
Yeah.
right? They're always gonna complain. It's like they were online 2 days ago about, you know, our piece of public art up here, right?
The poop,
And it was, yeah, yeah. And
the corner of the bank.
it's just, when there's something for yours.
The fountain.
And. And that's what they're gonna do, and
Line that
it
was.
doesn't matter, but, you know, the parking, but they just fail to understand, and I've done this probably 100 times. Before parking, there was no parking.
Yeah.
All right, there was no parking on Main Street.
Because the employees took it.
They park there all day.
You couldn't pay for it.
No.
Right? Because all the employees and the residents.
Yeah.
Were parking there, and the residents parked there for a month at a time, never moved their cars. So now, if there is no parking, it's because businesses.
Yeah.
The traffic.
Yeah.
All right? It's full.
Yeah.
So, hey, and it's paying for the garage, which almost everybody thinks is a good thing.
Yeah, there's very little complaints about the garage itself and the city made sure, I mean, it doesn't look like a regular garage, like the outside of it and everything.
The garage, we need that one overhead scanner to start working. So I get back on Church Street without having to open my window.
But the nice thing about the parking garage is no matter what the weather is, you get out of your car.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
Accessible.
it's not too hot when you get in it. You can put up your umbrella before you go out. So
It's very accessible to Main Street too.
It is.
If you know, you can come out that back alleyway. You'll come right out in the middle of Main Street without having to loop around in certain areas. I tell people at the deli all the time, like, if you don't want to pay, you want to eat lunch and not pay for parking, just park right there. You come out of the alley, you're literally right across the street from the deli and you're in and out. And every time ever since they've done it, they all said the same thing. They're like, "That's the
sometimes
best
the
thing."
line's longer than that.
I mean, when people don't,
You have a long line.
I mean, when people don't slip me that 20 at the door. Yeah, it does get busy though, it does. But we still.
I've gotta
for the most
time
part,
it
keep
better.
people in and out.
Well, that's good. I was so shocked. We've been here, how many groups have we met with now? 3, 4, whatever it's been, and no one has said it. I kept thinking, I can't believe.
It's probably because the people that I've invited to the groups have not been the ones who would be. The ones complaining.
Parking is painful to talk about.
Well, I know for us, you know, our big thing is that people will go to Walmart in a huge parking lot, but it's that whole line of sight,
Mhm.
you know?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you're gonna make me park around the corner, which is, you know, literally just a few more steps, but it's.
So you park a mile away from
It's
Walmart and walk.
exactly,
Yeah.
and it's that line of sight and watching people drive around the block until a parking stall opens up, you know, and it's like.
Could have been there.
Exactly, but it is.
Maybe that's what the side streets have, just murals of all the businesses. So when you come out of the parking garage, you can see it and you're right there.
You do need to decorate that one alley a little.
Oh, I brought that up. I would love to see that decorated.
I'll say I've seen from the city perspective of things, when people complain about stuff like that, you guys suffer from the age of the internet where everybody can complain, but it's all equal. And everybody has equal access and it all feels very urgent. In reality, none of it's urgent. They're all equal. They're all have the same amount of clout and like,
Yeah.
you just let them shout at each other. No, let it be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you all so much.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks.